Hi, mystery resurfaced here. Today, I am going to explain a 2019 sci-fi thriller film called Lifelike. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. The film begins with a recently married couple named Sophie and James. The two of them are exceptionally happy with their wedded life, and it seems as though they're moving to another house, bringing an old love couch. James has been dealing with the trust reserve run by his father, who is an exceptionally rich businessman. One day, he got a call from his family, letting him know that his father has passed on. Naturally, he acquires his father's business and becomes CEO of his father's organization. James and Sophie choose to get away from the city into a rural house. Step by step, they start their new life. In the house they have enough servants to deal with their family errands, so Sophie doesn't work, and invests a large portion of her time at home. Tragically, she isn't utilized to this sumptuous life, like the housekeepers who serve her constantly. Despite the fact that her servants have worked admirably, she feels that she just needs to reside alone with James in the house. Immovably, he decides to fire every one of the servants by giving them cutbacks. James, who at first is familiar with this, is extremely frustrated. He says that they need a few servants to deal with their big house. However, eventually, he gets what Sophie needs and they choose to have sex in the bed. Eventually, James, who is really working hard, is called by his wife in between a group meeting. Sophie requests that he assist him with fixing the lawnmower in their yard. James winds up fixing the motor around evening time. Consistently, Sophie is as yet confused about her new position. She begins grumbling to James, despite the fact that she had terminated every one of the servants in her house. As a last point, they meet Julian, a man who sells AI robots to be utilized as domestic workers. In the first place, James needs to lease a wonderful robot. However, Sophie disagrees because she needs to be the only lady in their house. At last, they consent to pick a male robot named Henry, who obediently completes their orders around the house. Initially, everything goes regularly. Henry is a robot, makes breakfast for them each day, and trims the grass in their yard as requested by James and Sophie. One day, Henry is tidying up Sophie's room and unintentionally sees her wearing clothes. Sophie is extremely shocked by his presence and requests that he get out. She continues to complain James about Henry's activities, until one day their relationship is getting tense. Sophie frequently feels desolate because James is generally occupied working. Therefore, she attempts to invest more time with Henry. From here onward, she begins to care deeply about him. She advises him to read books about human sentiments and feelings. As a result, Henry starts to foster feelings and have dreams because of the robot's insight framework, which will adjust to the things he faces. One night Sophie awakens from her bed and hears something from outside the house. She finds Henry resting outside, unmistakable, nude and fairly confused, saying that he fantasies about being a human. The following day, they go directly to Julian and get some information about Henry's peculiarity the previous evening. Julian says that it could happen because they overdeveloped Henry's feelings. For example, frequently getting human things done with him. When they get back home, James blames Sophie for all that she has done to Henry. At present, their relationship is deteriorating. After work, James finds a letter written by Sophie. The letter was written by Sophie when they initially moved into the house, showing how deeply she loves James. Then he carries a candles into his room to apologize and request that Sophie to have sex. But unfortunately she turns it down, since she isn't exactly in the mindset. One evening, Henry lets Sophie know that he's been having a few feelings recently. He feels like he was modified to satisfy all that James and Sophie needs, including resting together and having sex to them. That evening, Sophie dreams that Henry is kissing and having sex with her while relaxing her. When James goes to work, Sophie deliberately opens her room entryway and strokes off about her fantasy the previous evening. Subsequently, she finds Henry outside her room, inquiring as to whether he was watching her. Later James sees Sophie and Henry sitting by the pool. He is jealous of their new closeness. He chooses to meet up with Julian once more, asking him an answer for Henry. Julian lets him know that Henry's action will be in accordance with his owner's desires. With knowing that, James warns Henry not to cooperate with his wife once more. Sad Henry intentionally tells Sophie about it, making James and Sophie argue again. Therefore, Sophie goes out for the next couple of days. When James requests Henry to bring his razor, Henry comes naked. The experience between them prompts an off-kilter scene which ends with Henry kissing James. This occurrence makes James to scrutinize his sexuality. The following day in his office, James calls Sophie to retouch their relationship. Sophie covertly returns home just to meet Henry. When Henry kisses Sophie while relaxing her, Sophie gets upset. When Henry says "I love you" in a similar way said by James. When James gets back home, she tells him regarding the experience seconds ago, making James angry. He then finds Henry and slaps him, angrily separating his charging station. The following morning, James and Sophie are trusting that Julian will show up at their home. James leaves for work first, since he has waited for Julian for a long time. That day, Henry gets up extremely late, unexpectedly. He comes in to inform Sophie about his charging station being separated. He also informs about all the incidents that happened when Sophie went out. Not long after Julian comes to the house, but rather Sophie chooses to see James at his office. Strangely, Henry sees his injuries from the mirror, scrutinizing that he is a robot. Julian orders him to go to his bed, however he would rather not agree. He also understands that Julian has been misleading him all this time. Back to Sophie and James. The two of them regret their actions. James justifies that he took his desire on Henry, since he was recently dismissed by Sophie. They however pardon each other's guilt. Back at home, they are amazed by Henry stripped outside. Henry understands that from the beginning he is a human. Julian is found to be a fake in every one of his robots, or uncovered to be genuine people, whom he had raised. Julian had taken care of Henry when he was a small kid, who was disowned by his mother, and had experienced genuine actual maltreatment. He had raised every one of them to accept they were robots. James and Sophie, with two FBI agents, go to their house to arrest Julian. Julian fires at them with a shotgun. Out of nowhere, he aims his gun at James and Sophie. However, Henry attacks him, assaulting him savagely with a shotgun. Feeling deceived by his producer and embarrassed for selling out his owners, Henry stabs himself with a kitchen knife. James and Sophie cry and solace Henry as he dies. 5 years after the fact, they are displayed with a small boy named Henry, as they intended to enlighten their son about his namesake sometime in the future. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.